Your Erroneous Zones. Reclaiming your life from self-defeating thoughts. Have you ever felt trapped by your own mind, plagued by guilt, worry, or a constant need for approval? What if you could permanently eliminate these self-defeating thoughts and reclaim your inherent right to happiness and peace? Welcome, listeners, to a transformative journey through Your Erroneous Zones by the pioneering self-help author and motivational speaker, Dr. Wayne Dyer. First published in 1976, this groundbreaking book became a phenomenon, challenging millions to confront their psychological prisons and embrace a life of freedom and personal empowerment. Dr. Dyer's core philosophy is clear and direct. You are in complete control of your thoughts and feelings. Our unhappiness stems not from external circumstances, but from the erroneous zones, the irrational, self-defeating thought patterns we cling to, often unconsciously. He argues that we are conditioned by society and past experiences to adopt these destructive thought habits, but we possess the inherent power to choose new, empowering ways of thinking. This book is a radical call to action, demanding you stop giving away your power to external forces and internal anxieties. It's a vital guide for anyone ready to shed the psychological baggage of guilt, worry, approval-seeking, and procrastination, and step into a life of genuine self-direction and joy. Part 1. The Core of Your Erroneous Zones. In the first part of Your Erroneous Zones, Dr. Wayne Dyer lays the foundational arguments for his philosophy, immediately confronting the reader with the radical idea that their unhappiness is a choice, and that the power to change lies entirely within. Chapter 1. Choosing to be happy. The Ultimate Freedom Explanation. Dr. Dyer begins with a bold declaration. Happiness is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose to be. He argues that your emotional state is entirely within your control, and that blaming external circumstances or other people for your unhappiness is simply an erroneous zone, a self-defeating thought habit that keeps you powerless. Deep analysis. Psychologically, this chapter challenges the common external locus of control. Many people believe their feelings are dictated by what others say or do, or by their life circumstances. Dyer counters this by emphasizing our inherent free will, similar to Frankl's Last Human Freedom. Our thoughts are conscious products of our minds, and our emotions are direct results of those thoughts. If you think thoughts of resentment, you will feel resentful. If you choose thoughts of gratitude, you will feel grateful. The erroneous zone here is the belief that if only X would change, then I would be happy. This belief prevents us from taking responsibility for our own internal state and perpetually links our well-being to uncontrollable external factors. True freedom comes from realizing that you are the sole author of your emotional landscape. Illustrative examples: the traffic jam. Response: two people are stuck in the same traffic jam. One person becomes enraged, honking their horn, cursing, and feeling utterly miserable. The other calmly listens to an audiobook, accepts the situation, and uses the time to relax. The external circumstance, traffic, is the same, but their chosen internal response creates entirely different emotional realities. Dyer would say, the angry person chose to be angry by dwelling on frustrating thoughts, while the calm person chose peace. The boss's criticism. Your boss criticizes your work. You have two choices. You can feel devastated, worthless, and spend the day sulking, choosing pain. Or you can choose to see it as feedback, learn from it, and maintain your self-worth, choosing growth. The criticism itself doesn't make you feel. Your thoughts about the criticism do. The unhappy vacationer. A person plans a perfect vacation, but it rains. They spend the entire trip complaining, feeling miserable, believing the rain made them unhappy. Dyer would point out that the rain is just a fact. Their unhappiness is a choice to focus on what's wrong rather than finding joy in the alternative possibilities, e.g., enjoying indoor activities, embracing the cozy atmosphere. Practical application. Whenever you feel a negative emotion, pause and ask yourself, what thought am I choosing to think right now that is causing this feeling? Consciously replace that thought with one that serves you better. Practice this regularly until you become a master of your own emotional responses. Understand that no one can make you feel anything. They can only trigger your thoughts, and you control those thoughts. Chapter 2. The First and Last Evil. Your Childhood Explanation. This chapter directly confronts the common tendency to blame your past, particularly your childhood, for your current problems and unhappiness. Dr. Dyer asserts that while your past experiences may have influenced you, they do not control you. Dwelling on past hurts or using them as excuses is an erroneous zone that prevents you from taking responsibility for your present and future. Deep analysis. Psychologically, this challenges the deterministic view often found in some therapeutic approaches that heavily emphasize childhood trauma as the sole root of adult dysfunction. Dyer argues that while childhood experiences create initial software programming, adults have the capacity to reprogram themselves. Holding on to past grievances or using them as a perpetual scapegoat prevents personal growth and maintains a victim mentality. It's an act of self-disempowerment. He stresses that the only moment that exists is the present, and the power to change lies entirely within that moment. Your past influences, but does not define your present choices or your future potential. Illustrative examples. The victim of my parents syndrome. Someone might constantly say, I'm always insecure because my parents criticized me a lot as a child. While the criticism was real, clinging to this narrative prevents them from actively working on building self-esteem now. Dyer would say, your insecurity is your choice to perpetuate that narrative in the present. The procrastinator's justification. A person might rationalize their procrastination by saying, I always put things off because my parents never pushed me hard enough. This blames the past. Dyer would challenge them to recognize that their past influence doesn't negate their present power to choose immediate action. The man who blamed his bad temper. A man with a violent temper continually excused it by saying, it's because my father had a terrible temper and I learned it from him. Dyer would ask, do you want to continue to choose to be like your father, or do you want to choose to be a different person, starting now? The power lies in the present decision, not the past conditioning. Practical application. Stop blaming the past. Whenever you find yourself attributing your current problems to your childhood or past events, immediately interrupt that thought pattern. Focus on the present moment. Recognize that your power to change exists only in the here and now. Take full responsibility for your current choices, even if your past influenced you. Your present thoughts and actions are your own. Decide what you want to be. Forgive yourself and others. Let go of grudges and resentments from the past. Holding on to them only harms you. The past cannot be changed, but its power over you can be eliminated by a present choice. Chapter 3. The Need for Approval. Explanation. This chapter identifies the need for approval as a major Erroneous Zone. Dyer argues that many people constantly seek validation from others, basing their self-worth on external opinions rather than internal conviction. This pursuit of approval is a destructive habit that leads to anxiety, inauthenticity, and a chronic inability to live life on one's own terms. Deep analysis. Psychologically, the need for approval often stems from early childhood conditioning, where love and acceptance were tied to performance or obedience. As adults, this translates into a fear of rejection, a tendency to people-please, and a reluctance to express genuine opinions or pursue unconventional paths. This erroneous zone gives immense power to others, making our emotional state dependent on their judgments. Dyer emphasizes that true self-worth is inherent and does not need to be earned through external validation. When you prioritize others' opinions over your own integrity, you relinquish your personal power and live a life that isn't authentically yours. True freedom comes from being an other-directed person to an inner-directed person. Illustrative examples. The people-pleasing professional. Imagine a professional who constantly says yes to every request, even if it overwhelms them, simply because they fear disappointing others or want to be seen as a team player. They might avoid expressing dissenting opinions in meetings, even when they know a different approach would be better, all to gain approval. This leads to burnout, resentment, and a feeling of being unappreciated as their true self is hidden. The fashion victim. A person might spend excessive amounts of money on trendy clothes they don't truly like or feel comfortable in, just to fit in with a certain social group or impress others. Their choices are dictated by external standards, not personal preference or financial wisdom, driven by a deep need for social acceptance. The unauthentic artist. An aspiring artist might create work that they believe will be popular or approved by critics, rather than following their true artistic vision. This pursuit of external validation can stifle creativity and lead to a sense of emptiness, as their work doesn't genuinely express who they are. Practical application. Become aware of approval-seeking behaviors. Notice when you censor your opinions, agree reluctantly, or change your behavior to please others. Challenge your assumptions. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if someone disapproves? Often, the imagined consequence is far worse than the reality. Practice taking small risks of disapproval. Express a genuine opinion. Wear what you truly like, or politely decline a request that doesn't align with your priorities. Start small to build confidence. Base your self-worth on internal metrics. Focus on your integrity, effort, and personal satisfaction. Remind yourself that your worth is inherent, regardless of others' opinions. Chapter 4. The Tyranny of Guilt and Worry. Explanation. This chapter tackles two of the most prevalent and paralyzing erroneous zones: guilt, dwelling on past mistakes, and worry, dwelling on future uncertainties. Dyer asserts that both are entirely useless emotions that rob you of your present peace and future potential. Deep analysis. Psychologically, guilt is a self-inflicted punishment for past actions. While learning from mistakes is healthy, excessive guilt keeps you chained to the past, preventing growth and action in the present. Worry, on the other hand, is an irrational attempt to control the uncontrollable future. It's a mental habit of rehearsing negative scenarios, creating anxiety and draining energy without any productive outcome. Both guilt and worry are forms of present moment avoidance. They keep you from engaging fully with the only moment you truly have, now. Dyer emphasizes that the purpose of life is to live now, and these emotions prevent that by constantly pulling you backward or forward. The key is to shift from unproductive emotional dwelling to constructive problem solving or acceptance. Illustrative examples. The guilt trip. Parent. A parent might constantly feel guilty about a mistake they made with their child years ago, even if the child has moved on. This guilt serves no purpose. It drains the parent's energy and prevents them from fully enjoying their current relationship. Dyer would challenge them to learn from the past and release the guilt. The chronic worrier. Someone might spend hours each day worrying about hypothetical future problems, e.g., what if I lose my job? What if I get sick? This worry doesn't prevent problems. It creates anxiety in the present. When the feared event doesn't happen, the worry was wasted. If it does happen, the worry didn't help prepare for it, only caused unnecessary suffering. The exam anxiety. A student might spend days before an exam consumed by worry and guilt about not having studied enough earlier. This anxiety distracts them from productive studying in the present, paradoxically making the feared outcome more likely. Dyer would advise them to focus on the task at hand, study now, learn from past procrastination, and let go of unproductive worry. Practical application. Identify guilt-worry triggers. Notice the specific thoughts, times, or situations that trigger these emotions. Challenge the utility. When you feel guilty or worried, ask, is this emotion serving any positive purpose right now? Is it helping me solve a problem or learn something? The answer is usually no. Shift to action or acceptance. For guilt. If there's a practical step you can take to make amends, do it. If not, learn from the mistake, accept it, and release it. Practice self-forgiveness. For worry. If there's a problem you can solve, focus your energy on a solution. If it's outside your control, practice acceptance and redirect your focus to something productive or enjoyable in the present moment. Live in the present. Consciously bring your attention back to the here and now. Practice mindfulness or engage fully in your current activity. Chapter 5. Breaking away from the past, the fear of the unknown. Explanation. This chapter identifies the fear of the unknown and the comfort of the familiar past as a significant erroneous zone. Dyer argues that many people cling to old habits, familiar routines, and even known misery because the prospect of change, of stepping into the uncertain future, is more terrifying than staying in a painful but predictable present. Deep analysis. Psychologically, this fear is deeply rooted in our brain's primal need for safety and predictability. The unknown represents potential danger, triggering anxiety and resistance to change. Even if the familiar past or present is dysfunctional, it's a known quantity. Dyer contends that true growth and liberation require us to embrace uncertainty and actively move towards new experiences. Clinging to the past, whether it's past successes, past failures, or past identities, prevents us from living fully in the present and creating a vibrant future. This erroneous zone is a form of self-sabotage, where the imagined dangers of change outweigh the very real benefits of growth. It's about recognizing that growth inherently involves discomfort and uncertainty, and that the only way to avoid this discomfort is to avoid living fully. Illustrative examples. The unhappy but stagnant employee. Imagine someone deeply unhappy in their job, complaining constantly about it. They know they should look for something new, but the fear of applying, interviewing, and starting somewhere unfamiliar feels overwhelming. They cling to the known misery of their current job because it's predictable, rather than stepping into the unknown potential of a new career. Clinging to an unhealthy relationship. A person might stay in a relationship that is clearly not serving them, or even actively harmful, simply because they are terrified of being alone, of the uncertainty of finding a new partner, or of the discomfort of starting over. The familiar pain outweighs the unknown possibilities. The fear of new experiences. Someone might always order the same dish at a restaurant, take the same vacation route, or stick to the same social circle, not because they genuinely prefer it, but because the unknown, a new taste, a different adventure, meeting new people, feels intimidating. Their life becomes circumscribed by their comfort zone, limiting growth and new joys. Practical application. Identify areas of stagnation. Where are you clinging to the familiar simply out of fear? Challenge the comfort of misery. Recognize that staying in an unhappy, familiar situation is often more painful in the long run than the temporary discomfort of change. Take small steps into the unknown. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Start by trying a new hobby, meeting one new person, or taking a different route to work. Celebrate these small acts of courage. Visualize the benefits of the new. Focus intensely on the potential positive outcomes and growth that await you beyond your comfort zone, linking pleasure to the unknown. Chapter 6. The Futility of Anger. Explanation. This chapter declares anger as an entirely useless and self-defeating emotion. Dyer argues that anger is a choice, a way we choose to react to situations we don't like, and it serves no constructive purpose for the person experiencing it. It only causes internal turmoil and pushes others away. Deep analysis. Psychologically, anger is often a secondary emotion, a reaction to underlying feelings like fear, frustration, hurt, or powerlessness. While it might feel empowering momentarily, it's fundamentally a destructive emotion that drains energy, impairs judgment, and damages relationships. Dyer asserts that anger is a choice to give away your internal peace to an external event or person. When you choose to be angry, you allow someone or something else to control your emotional state. True power lies in choosing calmness, acceptance, or proactive problem solving instead. This erroneous zone keeps you stuck in a reactive mode, preventing you from responding constructively. Illustrative examples. Road rage. A driver cuts you off in traffic. You instantly become enraged, honking, yelling, and feeling your blood pressure rise. The other driver is long gone, unaffected. You, however, spend the next half hour simmering in anger, ruining your own mood. Dyer would highlight that your anger is your choice to give that driver power over your emotional state. The argumentative home life. A person constantly gets angry at their family members over small annoyances. This doesn't solve problems. It creates resentment and tension. Their anger is a destructive habit, preventing open communication and resolution. Dyer would suggest they learn to communicate their needs calmly, or choose to let go of minor irritations. The unproductive response to injustice. While righteous indignation can fuel social change, Dyer focuses on personal anger as a destructive force. He might distinguish between anger that leads to destructive behavior and a calm, determined resolve to address injustice through strategic action. True change comes from purposeful action, not from uncontrolled emotional outbursts that drain your energy and alienate potential allies. Practical application. Recognize anger as a choice. When you feel anger rising, pause and acknowledge that you are choosing to feel this way. Identify the underlying cause. What is the true emotion beneath the anger? E.g., fear, frustration, hurt, feeling disrespected. Address that emotion directly. Choose a different response. Instead of anger, choose acceptance, problem solving, or calm communication. Ask, what's the most effective way to deal with this right now? Practice emotional detachment. Understand that you don't have to be drawn into every negative emotion. You can observe your feelings without letting them control you. Use your body to shift state. Take deep breaths, relax your muscles, or take a short walk to dissipate physical tension associated with anger. Chapter 7. The Procrastination Problem. Explanation. This chapter identifies procrastination as a major erroneous zone that prevents us from living fully in the present and achieving our goals. Dyer argues that procrastination is never about laziness. It's a chosen behavior, usually a way to avoid discomfort or effort in the present by postponing a task until later. However, this postponement often creates more anxiety and less favorable conditions. Deep analysis. Psychologically, procrastination is a form of self-deception. We tell ourselves that, I'll feel like doing it tomorrow, or I work better under pressure. But in reality, we're simply avoiding the immediate discomfort associated with starting a task. This discomfort might be fear of failure, fear of success, boredom, or the perceived overwhelming nature of the task. By procrastinating, we trade short-term relief for long-term anxiety and stress. Dyer emphasizes that the only moment you have to act is now. When you put things off, you're giving away your present moment power to an imagined, often more stressful, future. The key to overcoming procrastination is to accept that discomfort is part of any significant action and to choose to act now, despite not feeling like it. Illustrative examples. The student and the term paper. A student has a term paper due in a month. Instead of starting, they decide to watch TV, telling themselves they'll get to it later. As the deadline approaches, their anxiety skyrockets, they lose sleep, and the quality of their work suffers. The initial pleasure of avoiding the task leads to massive pain later. Dyer would point out that the pain of starting earlier would have been minimal compared to the final agony. The unfiled tax returns. A person dreads doing their taxes. They put it off until the last minute, causing stress, rushed errors, and potentially missed deductions. The initial aversion to the task, minor discomfort, is amplified exponentially by procrastination, leading to a much larger, more painful problem. Delaying difficult conversations. Someone might put off a crucial conversation with a partner or colleague because they anticipate discomfort or conflict. This procrastination allows resentment to fester, problems to escalate, and the eventual conversation to be even more difficult. The erroneous zone here is the belief that avoiding the initial discomfort will somehow make the problem disappear, when in fact, it usually magnifies it. Practical application. Identify your procrastination triggers. What tasks or situations do you typically put off? What discomfort are you trying to avoid? Break tasks into tiny steps. Make the first step so small it feels almost impossible not to do, e.g., open the document, write one sentence, send one email. Act now, despite not feeling like it. Recognize that the feeling of motivation often comes after starting, not before. Choose to take the first step immediately. Confront the discomfort. Understand that the pain of starting is fleeting, and the reward of completion, relief, accomplishment, is far greater than the temporary pleasure of avoidance. Chapter 8. The Declining Need for Fairness. Explanation. This chapter challenges the need for fairness as a destructive, erroneous zone. Dyer argues that life is inherently unfair, and expecting perfect justice or equality will lead to constant frustration, resentment, and unhappiness. True peace comes from accepting life's imperfections and taking responsibility for your own actions, regardless of how others behave. Deep analysis. Psychologically, the demand for fairness often stems from a deep-seated belief that we are entitled to a certain outcome, or that others should behave in a specific way. When reality doesn't match this expectation, we feel angry, cheated, or victimized. This erroneous zone gives away our power to external circumstances and others' actions. It prevents us from adapting, problem-solving, and moving forward. Dyer emphasizes that while we can advocate for justice, clinging to the demand that life be fair is futile and self-defeating. Happiness is found in accepting what is, and then choosing how you will respond and create your own reality, rather than waiting for the world to conform to your ideals of fairness. Illustrative examples. The unfair. Promotion. An employee believes they deserved a promotion more than a colleague who received it. They spend weeks fuming, complaining about the unfairness, and allowing bitterness to consume them. This doesn't change the outcome. It only harms their emotional state and productivity. Dyer would advise them to accept the situation, learn from it, and focus on their own career path regardless. The resentful family member. Someone might hold a lifelong grudge against a family member for a perceived unfair act from the past. Their constant demand for fairness keeps them chained to resentment, preventing reconciliation and personal peace. They are choosing to be unhappy by clinging to an ideal that may never be realized. Life's randomness. A person might face an unexpected illness, a job loss due to an economic downturn, or other misfortunes that are objectively unfair. Expecting life to be perfectly just leads to despair. Accepting the inherent randomness and then choosing a proactive response, seeking treatment, finding new opportunities, is the path to resilience. The erroneous zone is feeling that one should be immune to such events. Practical application. Acknowledge the reality of unfairness. When you feel life isn't fair, tell yourself, yes, this situation is not fair, and that's okay. Life sometimes works this way. Release the demand for fairness. Stop expecting the world or others to behave perfectly according to your rules. Focus on your response. Redirect your energy from complaining or blaming to what you can control: your attitude, your actions, and your choices in the present moment. Practice acceptance. For things you cannot change, practice accepting them fully. This frees up immense emotional energy. Be fair yourself. While you don't demand fairness from others, you can choose to embody fairness and integrity in your own actions. Chapter 9. The Independence Instinct. Declining your dependence. Explanation. This chapter identifies dependence on others for happiness or validation as a significant erroneous zone. Dyer argues that many people unknowingly trade their personal freedom for perceived security or approval, giving immense power to external sources. Whether it's a partner, a job, money, or societal expectations to dictate their well-being. Deep analysis. Psychologically, the need for dependence often stems from a fear of loneliness, a lack of self-trust, or a conditioned belief that one cannot survive or thrive independently. This erroneous zone results in a constant pursuit of external props for happiness, leading to anxiety when these props are threatened, and a feeling of being incomplete without them. Dyer emphasizes that true happiness and self-worth must come from within. When you derive your sense of self from external sources, you become a slave to those sources. True independence isn't about being isolated. It's about being self-reliant in your emotional and psychological well-being, capable of generating your own happiness regardless of external conditions. It's about recognizing that you are a complete individual, perfectly capable of navigating life on your own terms. Illustrative examples: the emotionally dependent partner. Someone might believe, I can only be happy if my partner is happy, or I can't possibly survive without my partner. This dependence places an unbearable burden on the relationship and creates immense personal anxiety, as their happiness is entirely contingent on another person's state or presence. Dyer would challenge them to find their own sources of joy and completeness. The job-dependent identity. An individual might define their entire self-worth by their job title or company affiliation. If they lose their job, they feel utterly lost and worthless because their identity was externally derived. True self-reliance means your identity and happiness are rooted in who you are, not what you do for a living. The social media validation seeker. A person constantly posts on social media, seeking likes and comments to feel good about themselves. Their self-esteem becomes dependent on external validation. When the likes don't come, or they receive negative comments, they feel miserable. This dependence on external approval robs them of internal peace. Practical application. Identify areas of dependence. Where are you relying on external people, things, or circumstances for your happiness or sense of worth? Practice self-reliance. Consciously engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment independently. Develop hobbies, pursue personal goals, and build your self-confidence through internal achievements. Embrace solitude. Spend time alone to discover your own thoughts, feelings, and preferences without external influence. Challenge. I can't live without thoughts. Replace them with, I choose to create my own happiness, regardless of external factors. Chapter 10. The Labeling Trap. Explanation. This chapter exposes the erroneous zone of labeling and categorizing ourselves or others based on past behaviors, roles, or perceived traits. Dyer argues that rigid labels, I'm shy, he's always lazy, she's a quitter, limit our potential, create self-fulfilling prophecies, and prevent genuine growth and understanding. Deep analysis. Psychologically, labels are cognitive shortcuts. They help us quickly organize information, but they can become mental prisons. When we label ourselves, we limit what we believe we are capable of, preventing us from trying new things or breaking old patterns. When we label others, we stop seeing them as complex individuals and instead react to the label, hindering genuine connection and perpetuating misunderstandings. This erroneous zone is a form of cognitive distortion that locks individuals into fixed identities, hindering their ability to adapt and change. Dyer emphasizes that human beings are dynamic and constantly evolving, and rigid labels fail to capture this fluidity. Illustrative examples. The shy person. Someone believes, "I am a shy person." This label leads them to avoid social situations, speak quietly, and confirm their own shyness. The label becomes a self-imposed barrier to growth. Dyer would say, "You are not shy. You choose to behave shyly in certain situations. You can choose a new behavior." Labeling a child. A parent might label their child the messy one or the difficult one. This label unconsciously creates an expectation, and the child may then behave in ways that confirm the label, even if they desire to change. The label becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The past failure label. Someone who failed at a business venture in the past might label themselves as a failure. This label prevents them from attempting new ventures, even if they have learned valuable lessons. Dyer would argue that a past outcome does not define your current identity or future potential. Practical application. Eliminate self-labeling. Stop using fixed labels to describe yourself. "I am X. I am not Y." Instead, describe behaviors. "I sometimes act shy in new groups." Challenge labels for others. When you find yourself labeling someone, consciously remind yourself that they are a complex individual, not defined by a single trait. Focus on behavior, not identity. If you want to change something, focus on changing specific behaviors, not on changing your identity. This makes change feel more manageable. Embrace your fluidity. Remind yourself that you are constantly capable of growth and change, and that your past does not have to define your present or future. Chapter 11. The Injustice Collector's Explanation. This chapter targets the erroneous zone of injustice collecting, the habit of dwelling on past wrongs, holding on to grievances, and feeling chronically indignant about how unfair life or others have been. Dyer argues that this emotional pattern is entirely self-destructive, serving only to perpetuate misery and prevent genuine peace and freedom. Deep analysis. Psychologically, collecting injustices is a form of passive-aggressive self-punishment and a way to avoid taking responsibility for one's current choices. When we constantly recall past slights or perceived injustices, we keep ourselves stuck in a state of resentment and anger. This creates a powerful internal feedback loop, where the more we ruminate on the unfairness, the more pain we inflict upon ourselves. It's an illusion of control, believing that by holding on to the indignation, we are somehow punishing the perpetrator or preventing future wrongs. However, this only punishes the collector. Dyer emphasizes that true power comes from forgiveness and letting go, which are acts of self-liberation, not condoning the injustice itself. Holding on to grievances consumes precious present moment energy that could be used for positive action and joy. Illustrative examples. The lifelong grudge holder. Imagine someone who, for decades, talks about a past betrayal or perceived injustice from a family member, friend, or former colleague. Every time they tell the story, they relive the anger and pain. The other person might have moved on, or even be deceased. Yet the collector remains emotionally imprisoned. Their demand that life should have been fair keeps them from experiencing happiness now. The office grievance. An employee feels slighted by a past decision or comment from their boss. Instead of addressing it or letting it go, they silently collect this injustice, letting it fester. This leads to bitterness, reduced productivity, and a strained relationship with their boss, all while the boss may be completely unaware or have long forgotten the incident. The collector is the only one suffering. They should have known better. Many people collect injustices against society or abstract groups. Politicians are corrupt. People are so selfish. While these may have elements of truth, constantly dwelling on them and feeling indignant prevents proactive engagement and breeds cynicism, making the individual miserable without impacting the larger problem effectively. Practical application. Identify your injustice collection. What past wrongs or unfair situations do you frequently replay in your mind? Challenge the utility of resentment. Ask yourself, is this helping me right now? Is it making me happy? Is it solving anything? Practice forgiveness for yourself. Forgiveness is not about condoning the act, but about freeing yourself from the emotional burden. You don't need to forget, but you can choose to release the resentment. Redirect your energy. Whenever you catch yourself collecting an injustice, immediately shift your focus to what you are grateful for or what positive action you can take in the present moment. Chapter 12. The Cult of Convention. Explanation. This chapter explores the erroneous zone of blindly conforming to societal conventions and expectations, rather than living authentically according to your own inner compass. Dyer argues that many people sacrifice their true desires and personal freedom by striving to fit in or live up to what everyone else is doing, leading to a life of quiet desperation. Deep analysis. Psychologically, the desire to conform is a powerful social instinct, stemming from a need for belonging and fear of social rejection. Society, through its norms, traditions, and institutions, often subtly pressures individuals to adopt certain behaviors, beliefs, and life paths, e.g., getting a stable job, buying a house, marrying, having kids. This erroneous zone occurs when individuals allow these external pressures to override their own unique passions, values, and desires. It leads to a life where personal happiness is sacrificed for social approval or the avoidance of being perceived as different. Dyer champions individuality and self-direction, urging us to question conventions and courageously forge our own path, even if it means stepping outside the comfort zone of conformity. Illustrative examples. The unhappy successful life. Someone might pursue a prestigious career, marry a suitable partner, and buy a big house. All external markers of success according to societal convention. Yet, they feel deeply unfulfilled because these choices don't align with their true passions, e.g., they secretly long to be an artist, travel the world, or work for a nonprofit. They have conformed to the cult of convention at the expense of their own soul. The keeping up with the Joneses mentality. People buy things they don't need, go on vacations they can't afford, or engage in activities they don't enjoy, all to impress others or maintain a certain social image. Their choices are driven by external comparison and the fear of being seen as less than, rather than by genuine desire. Delaying happiness for when. Many people live their lives according to the convention that happiness will come when they achieve a certain milestone, e.g., I'll be happy when I get a promotion. I'll be happy when I retire. This puts happiness off indefinitely, conforming to a societal script that postpones joy until an often unreachable future. Practical application. Question conventions. For every major life choice or belief, ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want to, or because it's what's expected of me? Identify your authentic desires. What would you truly do if there were no societal expectations or fear of judgment? Practice being different. Take small steps to express your individuality, even if it means standing out from the crowd. Dress how you like. Pursue an unconventional hobby, or voice an unpopular opinion respectfully. Define success on your own terms. Create your own internal metrics for what a good life means to you, rather than relying on external validation or societal norms. Part 2. Beyond the Erroneous Zones. Living an Independent Life. Having meticulously exposed the various erroneous zones that tether us to unhappiness and self-defeating patterns, Dr. Wayne Dyer now transitions from diagnosis to prescription. In Part 2 of Your Erroneous Zones, he provides practical, actionable strategies for liberating yourself from these psychological traps and truly living an independent, joyful, and self-directed life. This section is about reclaiming your power and designing your own reality. Chapter 13. Eliminating your need for justice. Explanation. This chapter builds on the previous discussion of the declining need for fairness. Dyer argues that to truly be free, you must completely eliminate your personal need for justice in the world. This isn't about ignoring injustice, but about relinquishing your emotional demand that life must be fair, which only leads to personal suffering when it isn't. Deep analysis. Psychologically, the demand for justice is often a deeply ingrained expectation that life should operate according to our personal rulebook. When reality deviates from this rulebook, we experience intense frustration, anger, and a sense of victimhood. This erroneous zone is a form of external locus of control, giving immense power to external events or the actions of others to dictate your emotional state. Dyer emphasizes that life is inherently neither fair nor unfair. It simply is. Clinging to the demand for justice consumes enormous emotional energy that could otherwise be directed towards constructive action or enjoying the present moment. True liberation comes from accepting that life's unfairness is a given, and then consciously choosing your response and focusing on what you can create, regardless of the perceived injustices. Illustrative examples. The disgruntled employee. An employee is denied a promotion they feel they rightfully deserved. They could spend months or years feeling bitter, constantly replaying the unfairness in their mind. This preoccupation with injustice consumes their energy, ruins their relationships, and often leads to them missing new opportunities. Dyer would challenge them to let go of the demand for justice, accept the decision, and channel their energy into excelling elsewhere or finding a new opportunity. Dealing with difficult people. You encounter someone who is consistently rude or unkind. If you demand that they should be polite and just, you'll be constantly frustrated. Accepting that some people behave rudely and then choosing to either avoid them or interact with detached calm liberates you from their negative influence. Your peace becomes independent of their behavior. The perfect life. Illusion. Many people believe that if they just live right, life will be perfectly just and problem-free. When illness, loss, or setbacks occur, they feel intensely cheated or betrayed. Dyer would argue that this expectation itself is an erroneous zone. Embracing that life is unpredictable and sometimes unfair is the first step to resilience and finding joy despite adversity. Practical application. Identify where you demand justice. Notice the situations where you feel indignant or angry because things aren't fair. Challenge the demand. Ask yourself, does demanding justice from this situation make me feel better or worse? Does it help me solve anything? Practice radical acceptance. For situations you cannot change, practice accepting them fully, without emotional resistance. Redefine your power. Recognize that your power lies in your ability to choose your response, not in controlling external events or others' behavior. Focus on what you can control. Chapter 14. Declining your need for problems. Explanation. This chapter reveals a startling truth. Many people unconsciously create or cling to problems because it serves a hidden, often negative purpose. Dyer asserts that continuously having problems can become an erroneous zone, a way to avoid responsibility, gain attention, or simply avoid action. Deep analysis. Psychologically, clinging to problems can serve various functions. It can be a way to avoid taking risks. I can't pursue my dreams because I have too many problems. It can be a way to gain sympathy or attention. Look how hard my life is. It can even be a way to feel important. I'm the only one who can solve this mess. This erroneous zone is a form of self-sabotage, where the comfort or perceived benefit of having the problem outweighs the discomfort of solving it and moving forward. Dyer argues that if you genuinely wanted to solve a problem, you would. If you're holding on to it, there's a hidden payoff. True freedom comes from acknowledging these payoffs and choosing the liberation of problem-solving and proactive living. Illustrative examples. The chronic complainer. Someone constantly complains about their job, their financial situation, or their relationships, but never takes concrete steps to change them. The problem provides a topic for conversation, a reason to gain sympathy, or an excuse for inaction. Dyer would point out that the complaining itself has become the routine, and the reward is attention or avoidance of responsibility. The self-sabotaging artist. An artist might dream of success, but constantly create problems, e.g., perfectionism, procrastination, self-doubt, that prevent them from finishing or sharing their work. The hidden payoff might be avoiding the pain of criticism or the pressure of success. The drama magnet. Some individuals seem to constantly be embroiled in crises or drama. While external events happen, their habitual responses and choices often contribute to attracting or perpetuating these problems, perhaps because it provides a sense of excitement, attention, or a way to avoid deeper, more uncomfortable internal issues. Practical application. Identify your favorite problems. Which problems do you complain about often but never truly try to solve? Uncover the hidden payoff. Honestly ask yourself, what am I getting out of having this problem? What am I avoiding by keeping this problem? Choose to solve or let go. If the payoff isn't worth it, commit to either taking immediate action to solve the problem or consciously choosing to let go of it and its associated negative emotions. Focus on solutions, not problems. Redirect your mental energy from dwelling on the problem to actively brainstorming and implementing solutions. Tuyệt vời, chúng ta đã đi sâu vào những vùng lầm lạc về sự đòi hỏi công bằng và thói quen vô thức tạo ra hoặc bám víu vào vấn đề. Dr. Wayne Dyer, sẽ tiếp tục chỉ ra cách chúng ta tự áp đặt những ràng buộc và những xiềng xích cuối cùng cản trở sự tự do cá nhân. Dưới đây là nội dung tiếp theo cho fan Hải. Beyond the Erroneous Zones, Living an Independent Life, được viết hoàn toàn bằng tiếng Anh Mỹ, với giọng điệu mạnh mẽ, trực diện và tích cực, sẵn sàng cho kênh YouTube Audiobook của bạn. Chapter Lilim, The Fear of Failure, Explanation. This chapter directly addresses the erroneous zone of the fear of failure. Dyer argues that many people are so terrified of making mistakes or not succeeding that they become paralyzed, avoiding action, new experiences, or anything that carries a risk of imperfection. This fear, paradoxically, guarantees inaction and prevents any form of growth or success. Deep analysis. Psychologically, the fear of failure is often linked to a deep-seated need for approval from Chapter 3, and a belief that one's self-worth is tied to flawless performance. When failure is seen as a reflection of inherent inadequacy rather than a learning opportunity, the ego perceives it as a massive threat, leading to avoidance. This erroneous zone creates a self-imposed prison. By refusing to try, one avoids the pain of potential failure, but also forfeits the joy of potential success and the invaluable lessons that only come through mistakes. Dyer emphasizes that failure is not the opposite of success. It is a vital part of the process. True success is built on a willingness to experiment, stumble, learn, and try again. Embracing imperfection and the inherent risk of human endeavor is crucial for liberation. Illustrative examples. The aspiring artist's block. An aspiring painter might never start a canvas because they're terrified it won't be perfect, or that others will criticize it. The fear of creating a bad painting paralyzes them, preventing them from ever creating any painting at all. Dyer would challenge them to simply put paint on canvas, embracing the messy, imperfect process as the path to mastery. The unlaunched business idea. Many individuals have brilliant business ideas, but never pursue them, fearing failure, financial loss, or public ridicule. They spend years dreaming and planning, but never taking the plunge. The comfort of the hypothetical success outweighs the perceived pain of real-world risk. The shy person who avoids socializing. Someone who labels themselves shy, from Chapter 10, often avoids social gatherings, fearing they'll say the wrong thing, be awkward, or not be liked. The fear of social failure keeps them isolated, preventing them from developing social skills or finding genuine connections. Dyer would urge them to step into discomfort, accepting that some interactions might be awkward, but that the potential reward of connection outweighs the risk. Practical application. Reframe failure as feedback. View mistakes as data points, not personal indictments. Ask, what did I learn from this? Rather than, what's wrong with me? Embrace imperfection. Understand that perfection is an illusion and a barrier to action. It's okay to start messy, to learn as you go. Take calculated risks. Consciously step outside your comfort zone in small ways. The act of trying, regardless of the outcome, builds confidence and desensitizes you to the fear. Focus on effort, not just outcome. Derive your self-worth from the courage to try and the effort you put in, not solely on whether you achieve a perfect result. Chapter 16. The Trap of Intellectualism. Explanation. This chapter cautions against the erroneous zone of over-intellectualizing life and problems, using logic and analysis as a substitute for feeling, intuition, and action. Dyer argues that while intellect is valuable, Relying solely on it to the exclusion of emotions and direct experience can lead to paralysis by analysis, cynicism, and an inability to truly live. Deep analysis. Psychologically, this erroneous zone is a form of avoidance through excessive rationality. Some individuals retreat into their minds, constantly analyzing, dissecting, and philosophizing about problems, rather than taking direct action or allowing themselves to feel uncomfortable emotions. This can stem from a fear of making mistakes, a fear of being wrong, or a desire for absolute certainty before acting. Dyer emphasizes that life is to be lived and experienced, not just theorized about. While intellect is crucial for planning and understanding, true wisdom and happiness often come from a balance of head and heart, from intuition, and from courageous action despite uncertainty. Over-intellectualizing can create a safe, sterile distance from life's messy reality, preventing genuine engagement and growth. Illustrative examples. The eternal planner. Someone might spend years planning a business venture, endlessly researching, refining strategies, and waiting for the perfect moment. They are intellectualizing the process to death, avoiding the messy reality of actually launching the business. The fear of imperfect action is masked by endless analysis. The cynical intellectual. A person might use their intellect to poke holes in every idea, every optimistic viewpoint, and every attempt at positive change. Their cleverness becomes a defense mechanism, keeping them emotionally safe, but also disconnected from genuine engagement and joy. They intellectualize away the possibility of happiness or success, analyzing relationships to death. Someone might constantly analyze their relationships, dissecting every word, every gesture, trying to rationally understand every nuance. This intellectual approach can prevent them from simply feeling and experiencing the relationship, leading to emotional detachment or overthinking that stifles spontaneity and connection. Practical application. Balance thought with action. After a reasonable amount of planning or analysis, commit to taking action, even if it's imperfect. Trust your intuition. Learn to listen to your gut feelings and emotional signals, rather than dismissing them as irrational. Engage directly with life. Don't just observe or analyze. Participate fully in experiences, allowing yourself to feel emotions without immediately intellectualizing them. Embrace ambiguity. Recognize that life rarely offers perfect certainty. Be comfortable with not knowing all the answers before moving forward. Chapter 17. The Past and the Future. Living in the Present. Explanation. This chapter emphasizes that the present moment is the only reality we truly possess. Dyer argues that dwelling on the past, guilt, regret, resentment, or constantly living in the future, worry, anxiety, endless planning without action, are erroneous zones that rob us of our ability to experience and enjoy the now. Deep analysis. Psychologically, our minds have a remarkable capacity to time travel, but this can become a trap. When we dwell excessively on past events, what should have been or what I did wrong, we perpetuate negative emotions and prevent ourselves from learning and moving forward. When we constantly project into the future, what might happen or what I need to do, we create anxiety and miss the richness of the present moment. This erroneous zone is a form of present moment avoidance, preventing us from fully engaging with life as it unfolds. Dyer's core message throughout the book culminates here. The power to choose happiness, to overcome limitations, and to live freely exists only in the present moment. By focusing on what you can do, feel, and experience now, you liberate yourself from the psychological burdens of time. Illustrative examples. The chronically regretful person. Someone might spend years regretting a career choice they made a decade ago, constantly replaying what if. This consumes their present energy, preventing them from enjoying their current life or making new, positive choices. The regret is a choice to live in the past. The when-then happiness trap. Many people live by the rule, I'll be happy when I achieve X, future goal, then I can relax. This constantly postpones happiness, preventing them from finding joy in the present journey or experiencing peace now. They are living for a future that may never perfectly arrive. The mindful eater versus the distracted eater. Someone eating mindfully is fully present with the taste, texture, and aroma of their food, experiencing the joy of the meal now. A distracted eater is thinking about their next task, their past regrets, or future worries while eating, missing the present experience entirely. The latter is trapped in time, while the former is truly living. Practical application. Practice mindfulness. Consciously bring your attention back to the present moment. Focus on your breath, your senses, or the task at hand. Let go of past and future narratives. When your mind wanders to past regrets or future worries, gently bring it back to what you can control or experience now. Appreciate the now. Actively look for things to be grateful for or to enjoy in your current circumstances, no matter how small. Take immediate action. If a thought about the past or future prompts a need for action, do one small thing now to address it, then return your focus to the present. Conclusion. Unleashing your inherent right to happiness. As we conclude our transformative journey through Your Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer, a powerful and liberating truth stands clear. Your happiness is your choice, your responsibility, and your inherent right. This book isn't just about eliminating negative thoughts. It's a radical manifesto for reclaiming your autonomy and living a life free from self-imposed limitations. Dyer's pioneering work systematically dismantles the common psychological traps that hold us back. We've learned that our unhappiness stems not from external circumstances, but from the erroneous zones, the irrational, self-defeating thought patterns we unconsciously cling to. He's shown us that happiness is a choice. No one can make you feel anything. Your emotions are a direct result of your thoughts, and you have the power to choose those thoughts. The past is not your prison. Blaming your childhood or past experiences for your present problems is an erroneous zone. Your power to change exists only in the present moment. Approval is optional. The relentless need for external validation robs you of your authenticity and personal power. Your self-worth is inherent, not earned through others' opinions. Guilt and worry are useless. These emotions chain you to a past you can't change and a future you can't control. They consume your energy and prevent you from living fully in the now. Embrace the unknown and let go of anger. Fear of the unfamiliar keeps us stagnant, while anger is a destructive choice that only punishes the self. Confront procrastination and release the demand for fairness. Postponing action leads to greater anxiety and demanding life. Be perfectly just guarantees endless frustration. Decline dependence and break free from labels. True independence comes from internal self-reliance, and rigid labels limit your infinite potential for growth. Stop collecting injustices and question convention. Dwelling on past wrongs only hurts you, and blindly conforming stifles your unique spirit. Overcome fear of failure and the trap of intellectualism. Failure is a part of growth, and overthinking without action leads to paralysis. Live in the present moment. The past is gone. The future is uncertain. The only reality is now. In the complex and often overwhelming 21st century, Dr. Dyer's message is more vital than ever. It's a powerful call to take 100% responsibility for your thoughts, your feelings, and your choices, regardless of external circumstances. Embrace self-direction. Live by your own inner compass, not by the dictates of others or societal expectations. Live in the now. Free yourself from the burdens of past regrets and future anxieties. Choose your thoughts wisely. Recognize that your internal dialogue is the ultimate determinant of your happiness. Cultivate inner peace. Understand that peace is not the absence of problems, but the conscious choice to respond effectively and calmly to life's inevitable challenges. Your Erroneous Zones is not just a book to read, it's a manual to live by. It empowers you to shed the psychological baggage that prevents you from realizing your full potential and experiencing the profound joy that is your birthright. Call to action for your YouTube channel. If this deep dive into Your Erroneous Zones has illuminated your own self-defeating patterns and inspired a desire for change, I wholeheartedly encourage you to read Dwayne Dyer's complete, powerful work. His direct insights and practical exercises offer an even more profound and liberating experience. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Which erroneous zone resonated most strongly with you today? And what's one specific step you're committed to taking immediately to begin dismantling it in your own life? Share your reflections and intentions in the comments below. Your journey towards liberation inspires this entire community. If you found this comprehensive audiobook summary valuable, please give this video a thumbs up to support the channel. Subscribe for more transformative book insights, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into life-changing wisdom. Thank you for listening, and remember, you are the master of your destiny. Choose happiness now.